So, remember Voice of Reason? Good. Now anyone remember that he said this?
Ever since then, Luna was the worst part of most of the episodes she had a prominent role in. Luna has shown she's not a good role model time and time again, undeserving of the fanfare.
And remember the response I made? Where? When? How? Why? Aside from this one, I looked over all the episodes that Luna's had a prominent role in, and even ones where she gets barely any screen time at all, and didn't find anything questionable. Literally nowhere. The only things I could see that were maybe wrong were in the CMC Dream Trilogy arc, and even then it's a stretch. Welp, about a year ago, he made a follow-up that goes into more detail as to why he thought Luna's overhyped and undeserving of praise. He didn't make a video though, mind you, he did this through a journal on his DA account. Also, it wasn't a direct response to me. He was basically responding to groups of people that were saying similar points to my own. And to anyone asking why I'm covering this despite that huge span of time, it's because Voice, at least as far as I know, still stands by what he's written and what he said in his collab with Silverquill. And yes, I know someone linked him Golden Fox and Keyframe's review of Do Princesses Dream of Magic Sheep in the comments of his journal. And while the ending of said review alone undermines the entire entry, Voice hasn't publicly reacted to it at all. He didn't respond to said comment, he's nowhere to be seen in the comments in Golden's vid, and I sure as hell ain't checking every single episode of Roundtable is Magic. Before we begin, let me make this clear once again. I do not have any ill will towards Voice or anyone who may have agreed with him. Just because I don't think his points stand up to scrutiny doesn't mean I dislike him personally. But here it is. Loathable Luna. Clever. And since this is just a journal, and therefore almost everything's in text, we're gonna need something to represent Voice whenever we refer back to it.
Hello every pony and welcome to the first ever text version of My Little Pony. What works?
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not that cruel.
Hello every pony and welcome to the first ever text version of My Little Pony. What works? Now some of you may be mad at me for calling Luna the O-word during my collaboration with Silverquill. But some I fear may think I didn't explain myself enough. That's fair. A lot of material was cut from the review, including some explanation to why Luna was the worst part of her episodes.
Okay, that seems fair enough, but out of everything in the video that could have been trimmed, that was probably the most questionable choice of them all. Luna's an ultra-popular character, so surely it would have been important to come up with some compromise and explain things better than Luna's a bad role model and was the worst part in most of her episodes. Because... reasons.
So with Silver's permission I'll use his reasoning to why Luna is lovable to most and why she's loathable to me. Now Silver and I won't reassure that there's no bad blood between us. This is just more of an expression of ideas. With that said, let's take a look at loathable Luna. Let's start with her sentence of 1,000 years on the moon. I think I went in detail enough with this about feeling sorry for Luna. But to recap, Luna came across as a spoiled brat who wanted attention and acknowledgement for her duties of raising the moon and watching over the night. And while I have had moments of jealousy where work went unappreciated, I never went to the lengths that Luna did.
Did you vent out those feelings of jealousy? And how often did you have them? I ask this because as far as we know, Luna didn't vent hers, and we do know that she constantly had them. So how long did all that pent-up anger, jealousy, and resentment towards Celestia build up before Luna finally snapped? Months? Years? Decades? Centuries? People can only suppress their negative feelings for so long before they start boiling over. And just because you didn't go to extreme lengths doesn't mean that other people that are otherwise likable are incapable of going to extreme lengths either. Ever heard of the quote, "Beware the fury of a patient man"?
Calm down, diddly 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 diddly. They did their best, shoddily iddly iddly diddly. Gotta be nice, hostility diddly biddly diddly. Ah, hell diddly ding dong crap! Can't you morons do anything right?
But that's not the only thing that stunk about her banishment for a millennium. Then she returned as Nightmare Moon.
And here he embedded the following clip.
Time travel, you say?
Now that's something I would like to see.
Oh, how I wish that was the Nightmare Moon we got. Instead, we got Season 1 Nightmare Moon, the worst villain of the show. Yes, I think Starlight is a better villain than her, and Sunset doesn't count since she's from the movies. Come at-me.
Why? Because Equestria Girls isn't canon? Because it's not part of the main show? Why does it matter? So by your logic, this crybaby doesn't count as the worst villain Dragon Ball has ever had because he only appeared in the DBZ movies. Because, you know, reasons.
My problem with her as a villain was I never took her seriously as a threat. The best thing you could say about her evil extent was she made it dark for a few more hours, and her first challenge was trying to axe off the main characters. The worst you could say about her was she was completely inept, making the challenges for the main six to go through easier and easier as the girls got farther into the journey. And yes, I will still defend that a flight of stairs was a bigger challenge than someone's mustache being swiped. Even if we go into her struggle with Celestia in the season 4 premiere, despite being really cool, it lasted all of, 2-3 minutes before she was Kaioken to the moon.
Since Friendship is Magic is a cartoon and has well established that the laws of physics and biology hardly apply to Equestria at all, I'm going to ignore how the sun never rising again would cause global devastation to the crops that the ponies survive off of and eventually lead to mass extinction. Even though I didn't. It was indeed dark for just a few more hours, but that's only because the main six stopped her. If Nightmare Moon got her way, what would happen to Equestria? This isn't some minor inconvenience. The ponies would have to completely change their way of life to not only cope with the fact that it will never be daytime again, but also to appease their new tyrannical ruler. We know this not just through common sense, but also through the very alt timeline where Nightmare Moon was the ruler of everything that you just referred to. Rainbow Dash and Rarity are completely different ponies. And if that's too small of an example, look at the King Sombra timeline. Even though Sombra hadn't quite taken over Equestria, the ponies' lives were still miserable. And are you saying that you want the Nightmare Moon from the alt timeline? If the challenges to the main six in the premiere were inept to you, then what makes the alternate Nightmare Moon more competent? Say what you want about the premiere, but at least there, Nightmare Moon tried to stop the main six from reaching her. She didn't do something akin to literally leading Twilight to her only escape route without doing anything to disable her magic to make sure that she wouldn't go and do something like, well, this. And let's not forget, Season 1 Nightmare Moon did the one thing that some villains don't even think of doing, smashing the elements of harmony while they were all still stone. And seeing how they were hyped up to be the only things in existence that could defeat her, if Twilight went out to confront Nightmare Moon alone and didn't get her epiphany, she'd be completely screwed. You harp on about the fight between Nightmare Moon and Celestia only lasting about 3 minutes when you don't look at what happened in those 3 minutes. She forced, I repeat, forced Celestia to use the elements of harmony. The mere fact that Celestia was willing to use those to banish her own sister should speak volumes about how dangerous Nightmare Moon really was. But it's negated because the fight scenes were short? The show's writers have only 22 minutes to work with per episode, so why do they need to drag on a fight that we've known the outcome of for 4 seasons at that point? Nightmare Moon loses.
Even after all of that, she was instantly reformed, said she was sorry and everyone loved her. Well, we'll talk about that last. But speaking of Celestia, let's talk about my next problem. Being a part of the dynamic of the two royal sisters. I really don't want to break the bad news here, but the yin and yang of the sisters doesn't work all of the time. There's the obvious parts of the yin and yang that do work. Day and night, tall and short, hands-on teaching versus hands-off teaching are good examples. But there's one big element of the yin and yang that comes to my attention. Aspiring versus relatable. Celestia, you can easily make a case for a character someone looks up to. She's a powerful leader, she's kind, she's motherly, approachable, understanding, willing to take risks to ensure her subjects are safe. All of those are aspiring traits I can believe if someone looks up to her. Luna's relatability feels too narrow. The social outcast trying to fit into society again is more sympathetic rather than empathetic.
No, 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 no. 15 different kinds of no. At its core, Luna's plight post-Nightmare Moon is possibly the most relatable thing in life. Period. The ponies act like humans. Humans are a social creature. We evolved with the need to feel like we fit into groups, or at least feel like we belong somewhere. And whenever the average human is denied this, it hurts. Every single time. And it doesn't matter in what manner they're denied, be it from not being invited to a party they thought they would, or through a situation similar to Luna's. Being excluded or rejected sucks. And not only does practically everyone know this, practically everyone experienced it. While this sort of thing happens most frequently to people in their school years, you know, the audience that MLP was made for, it's also not that uncommon for it to happen to adults at where they work or even in online social circles. So with all that being said, you name me one person, especially in this fandom, that hasn't had these feelings that they couldn't fit in at least once in their lifetime. Plus, who's to say that the social outcast trope is the only thing people feel empathetic towards Luna for? It's well established in Luna Eclipse that she's socially awkward thanks to her 1,000-year absence. And social awkwardness, let's be honest, is something that's pretty commonplace amongst people in geek and cartoon culture. Hell, even people outside that group fall victim to it at some point in their lives. There's a reason why social awkwardness is a high schooler stereotype. Sure, you can argue that Luna's brand of weirdness doesn't quite fit in with all the other brands of weirdness out there, but the result is usually the same. People think you're weird. Now again, with all that being said, don't you think there'd be anyone out there who's gone through a phase at least similar to Luna's? You don't think anyone would look at her and go, "Bruh, I know the feel."
Which isn't necessarily a bad thing, especially if you want to understand what a character's going through despite not going through that arc yourself. Except, a sense of empathy would go longer in terms of trying to relate to a character, and once you find out the real reasoning behind her behavior, you would slowly back away from that character, and that sense of sympathy is gone. I hate to be that guy, but I can't relate to someone who decides to hide the family car keys preventing a parent or sibling from getting to their job just so they can get a car of their own. Or whatever you want to call her character assassination into Princess's Dream of Magic Sheep.
I'm not even gonna sugarcoat this one. That was one of the worst analogies I've ever heard. Why? Because Luna was never handed anything to her. She was doing her job, and from the looks of things, doing it just as good as Celestia was doing hers. Yet Celestia was given all the praise and all the attention. And what character assassination? That be implying that someone or something in Do Princess's Dream of Magic Sheep was damaging her reputation maliciously. So where is it? The fact that she was secretly depressed during the CMC Dream Trilogy? People with depression hide their depression all the time. That was probably one of the most realistic things ever brought into the series. Is it because she doesn't help the main six with their dream monsters, or take them along with her as she jumps from dream to dream, like how you said in your video with Silverquill? There's really not much she can do. She tells the main six multiple times that only she can move from dream to dream. Not even Celestia or Twilight are capable of that. And as for the dream monsters themselves? Plus, do they really need help in handling their dream monsters? Fluttershy maybe, but even then all she has to do is remember that she can fly. The main six have dealt with Nightmare Moon herself, a reality-warping demigod, literal Satan who can tank a Kamehameha, and much more threatening dangers than spoopy dresses and rotten apples. And towards the end, it's established that they can manipulate their dreams any way they want, even with the Tantabus in their presence. All they need to do is figure that out, which they do on their own later on, and then they're all set. And shout out to 7Seraphim7 who responded to my comment on Silverquill's video saying, quote, "Also Rarity outright pretty much tells Luna, you go follow the Tantabus, I got this."
It has jumped into another dream. I'm sorry, but if I am to stop it, I must follow it where you cannot. Go! I shall be able to handle things here. I hope.
You want to talk character assassination? You made Luna out to be someone who wanted material possessions, when all she clearly wanted was just a thank you.
Well, maybe I can find solace in the fact that she was a mentor to the 3 Cutie Mark Crusaders. This is an area that should work in Luna's favor. Well, Celestia bestowed her teachings to Sunset and Twilight in the areas of magic and sent Twilight off to become the element of magic. Luna puts her wisdom to use with the CMC. Now that makes sense. The girls were still young and Luna could apply some of her life lessons on the younger minds. And then she starts talking.
And here he embeds this clip.
Yeah, Luna's spouting advice is not her strong suit. I have to concur with Commander Firebrand on this one. Luna bestowing wisdom just sounds unnatural. It almost sounds monotone when she's giving the fortune cookie fortune of the day, especially in the final episode of the Dream Trilogy. This feels like it should be a Celestia thing to do rather than Luna.
So it's not the advice she's giving that's the problem, it's the way that Tabitha delivered her lines. Is that what you're saying? Because that's what I'm hearing. I said in my original response to you that I was really grasping at straws as to what Luna might have done wrong in the CMC Dream episodes, and I legit thought I was missing something. But this is downright desperate. Being a mentor is going to feel like more of a Celestia thing to do because she was already established to be a mentor figure. But if she mentored everyone, that'd be boring. Why can't Luna grow into her own as a mentor for the CMC? But wait, she did. That was part of her character arc. But you said in your collab with Silverquill that she's not a good role model. Poor voice direction does not equal being a poor role model. So I'll ask again. Where? When? How? Why?
In terms of the bestowing of wisdom, it only worked once. I think the best dream interaction was with Sweetie Belle, since it was a situation Luna relates to almost perfectly. The rest of the time, she just happens to show up out of nowhere in Scootaloo's dream, stopping the plot for exposition, and shows up in the last 1/3 of the Apple Bloom episode with me not caring because of how predictable it got by the end of the story.
It's not entirely showing up out of nowhere, quote-unquote, when she explains why she showed up about 2 sentences after she shows up. In fact, let's count how many seconds said exposition takes.
A warm welcome to you, Scootaloo.
Princess Luna! I thought you were the headless horse.
You were mistaken, but I hope not disappointed.
You are so much better than the headless horse. But what are you doing here? Shouldn't you be
I am the princess of the night. Thus it is my duty to come into your dreams.
Oh yeah!
Less than 30 seconds out of a 22-minute episode. That's a minor inconvenience at worst. Your complaint also somewhat implies that what Luna had to say wasn't even all that important, when in reality, it was plot-critical information. It also segued seamlessly right into Luna's point, which was that Scootaloo wasn't scared of the Headless Horse, but that she was scared of telling Rainbow Dash that she was scared in general. I'd hardly call that stopping the episode.
With the latter 2 scenarios, you could put Celestia in Luna's role and nothing would change, bestowing the face your fears and accepting who you are, morals.
So it wouldn't be jarring to you that Celestia, a diplomat from the capital of Equestria, the princess/demigoddess who raises the sun, would just show up in the middle of the Everfree Forest in the dead of night. Sure, you can change it to be the daytime, but it'd still be in the middle of the fucking woods. And if it's not going to be in the Everfree Forest, then where? In the dream world? Well, then that just brings up the question, why isn't that Luna's ability? She's the princess of the night after all, back in Ponyville after the camping trip is over, and that she just happened to be attending a conveniently placed festival or something? Same goes with Apple Bloom's situation. What would prompt Celestia of all ponies to help her specifically? At least it's Luna's job to watch over individual dreams, where she'd see Apple Bloom having a nightmare and go, oh, that's a bad, I better go and see what's wrong. So yes, a lot would change if you have Celestia in Luna's role. You'd basically have to rewrite both of the episodes.
You can probably tell now why Luna is my least favorite of the 4 princesses. However, it's not just the bratty backstory or the fact she sucked as villain or she can't talk without sounding like she's in a Christopher Nolan film where everything that is important can be even more important. My biggest problem is she hasn't shown any growth as a character. Luna is stuck dwelling in the past and hadn't left that mindset until her latest episode.
The series premiere.
Luna/Nightmare Moon debuts as a maniac aspiring to take over Equestria until she's stopped by the main six when they free her from her corruption caused by her jealousy and spite.
Luna eclipsed.
Now no longer wanting to overthrow her sister, Luna goes to Ponyville, but the townsfolk are frightened of her. She not only regains their trust, but also takes the first steps to adjusting to modern life in Equestria.
The CMC Dream Trilogy.
We're shown that she's made progress in her life, enough to the point where she grows into her own as a mentor, much like her older sister.
Do princesses dream a magic sheep?
With the help of the main six and the very townsfolk that were scared of her at one point, she conquers her inner demons once and for all. So, how is that not changing? How is that not showing growth as a character? I am genuinely curious.
All of the other princesses showed signs that they were moving forward or preparing for the future.
So did Luna. She did so by looking after the CMC, the next generation of her subjects. If that's not preparing for the future in some way, shape, or form, I don't know what is.
Celestia had one instance of dwelling on the past in the season 4 premiere, but it was brief and she moved on to bigger things. Twilight had this guilt with Moon Dancer in amending fences, but as the title suggests, she and Moon Dancer made amends and got through it to achieve things that are greater. Heck, Moon Dancer attended Twilight's seminar in the Cutie Remark to prove it.
Luna's made amends too, helping the CMC with life lessons, saving Equestria from her own creation, sacrificing her magic to Twilight to help her save Equestria from Satan. She's regained the trust of her subjects enough to the point where she can go out in public, alone, basically whenever she wants.
Cadence. Actually, come to think of it, she's never dwelled on the past. She's always focusing on the present and what's to come, especially now that she's a mother. I think she may have jumped up a few points on the best princess scale. Luna has pent up jealousy and spite for 1,000 years, wanting revenge on her sister for something she did in the past.
Had voice. She had 1,000 years worth of jealousy and spite. She vented it when she was Nightmare Moon, and she felt terrible for it.
Felt outcast from society when every pony is scared of her because of something she did in the past.
Gee, I wonder why.
Created a creature to harm herself to prevent her from forgetting about something she did in the fucking past. Starting to see a pattern here. I don't find constantly harping on past actions and mistakes as likable traits for a character.
She didn't constantly harp on past actions though, at least not publicly. The only 2 times when she did was in Luna Eclipsed and Do Princesses Dream a Magic Sheep. 2 episodes out of 5. No, a royal problem doesn't count, because it wasn't Luna that was scared of turning back into Nightmare Moon, it was Starlight, for whom the Sweetie Belle Toils doesn't count either, since she only briefly mentioned her past in 1 sentence, and she never mentioned what she did as Nightmare Moon. In every other instance that we've seen her, Luna was a mentor to the CMC in Twilight, a guardian of dreams, and in A Slice of Life, an ordinary sister. The way you described it, Voice, Luna would be mentioning Nightmare Moon every 5 to 10 seconds. She doesn't. By the time Do Princesses Dream a Magic Sheep came along, she was over it for all we knew.
It doesn't show me that she's gone through an arcade instead. It feels like she's repeating the same story and not learning from it. She, in turn, becomes the poster child for those who don't learn from history, are doomed to repeat it.
Were her methods proper? No. But she clearly did learn something, otherwise she wouldn't feel guilty or do whatever she thought was necessary to prevent herself from turning back into Nightmare Moon. She didn't try to take over Equestria with the Tantabus, she tried to stop it. This is nothing like the events that led up to Luna turning into Nightmare Moon, so how is it going through the same arc? But let's make it a bit simpler. Part of her lesson to Sweetie Belle was, hey, don't sabotage your sister because you're jealous. Trust me, bruh, I've been there. Bad shit happens.
Now, I hear you say, what about Gilda? She's a character that, as I said, tries to reminisce the past and I like her for it. Here's the thing about that. That's what made her a great antagonist. She reminisces the good times Dash and her had because Dash was the only friend she had and it made her feel good. Not accepting that Dash had moved on afterwards was great insight for her behavior in Griffin the Brush-Off, which led to her big redemption in the lost treasure of Griffinstone. It also helps that she didn't have 5 fucking episodes where she had a prominent role. Might as well start with the episode everyone thinks is better than Lesson 0. Like I said earlier, Luna was instantly forgiven for her wrongdoings as Nightmare Moon by pretty much everyone. Not the way I would have done it. Maybe have just Celestia forgive her for now, but that's small potatoes. She's a good guy now. And then everyone forgets on Nightmare Night that she was reformed and they go back to being afraid of her.
Which scenario makes more sense to you? The townsfolk instantly forgiving Luna for her attempted hostile takeover of their way of life, or feeling a little nervous around Luna because of her attempted hostile takeover of their way of life? I assume it's the latter, and the show's writers probably thought the same thing because that was the smartest retcon they've ever done.
Also, no one telling Luna that this isn't medieval times and the royal we is outdated.
Okay, that bit is true.
I know, 1,000 years and a lot to catch up on during that time. I'm just saying I would have preferred consistency between episodes concerning the townsfolk.
But you also have a problem with the townsfolk just forgetting about Nightmare Moon so quickly. So would that bit of bad writing be okay to you if they didn't retcon it? Or would you just tolerate it or something? You say you prefer consistency, but it really comes across that you wouldn't be satisfied no matter what the writers do here.
So Luna was not the biggest problem with episode. She was fine, for the most part. Then we have the CMC Dream Trilogy. She was the worst part here. As I said earlier, in Sleepless in Ponyville she had to stop the plot for exposition as to why she appeared out of nowhere in Scootaloo's dream.
Why did Luna show up? Can she travel through dreams? If so, why? Is it her job to go through dreams? Again, if so, why? All of these were answered in just 2 sentences, both of which were no more than 10 words long. Yes, I counted it. And again, it seamlessly segued into her actual point about Scootaloo's real fear. This isn't stopping anything. This barely qualifies as a brief pause.
In For Whom the Sweetie Belle Toils, she left me confused as to what her power's extent was. It was cleared up in Bloom and Gloom, but I didn't care because there was no surprise to Luna getting involved by the end of it.
So you get your questions about Luna's abilities answered, but just hand-wave them away because you knew she would show up in the episode. Do you see how petty that sounds? Predictable does not equal bad, and I still don't know why Luna's a bad role model.
And then there's the Princess's Dream of Magic Sheep. The argument I constantly hear for people defending Luna's actions is the episode is more about guilt rather than depression. And I would be inclined to agree, if not for 2 lines.
My dream ended happily? That cannot happen! I created the Tandibus to give myself the same nightmare every night. To punish myself for the evil I caused as Nightmare Moon.
Let me ask you, for those who defend these lines, if these were taken out entirely, would the episode improve, worsen, or would nothing change?
I think I need a break. Can I have a break? Can I have a break? Hey, world! Hey, world, can I get a break? Can I have a break, guys? I need a break. Just 5 to 10 minutes. Just 5 to 10 minutes. That's all I need. Need a break. I need a break. I need a break. Breaky time.
And darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand now.
Okay, I'm good now. Sorry everyone, I just needed to watch something slightly dumber just to balance out my, serotonin.
Do I find perfection in many things? Some things, I would say. Some things are perfect. And this is one of them. I can look at the little tuft of hair on John Arbuckle's head. It is the perfect shade. The purple pipe in Garfield's mouth. How could a mere mortal even make this?
Now, that first line. What's in it that suggests that Luna was feeling more depressed than guilty? All it's there for is to establish, hey, a bad just happened, and it's gonna lead to more bads happening. And second, what's the point in asking if the episode would worsen or improve if you were trying to show that Luna was depressed rather than guilty? Why can't she be both? It's a proven fact that depression and guilt are linked, and people with depression have feelings of guilt magnified 1,000-fold. And third, of course the episode would worsen. Because throughout the episode, the audience was asking questions like, what is the Tantibus? Who created it? Why? If no one created it, is it a monster that only exists in the dream world? If so, again, where did it come from? If we didn't get those questions answered in the episode by that second line, I guarantee you'd be the first to complain about it. And rightfully so, because those would be massive holes. And with that, I'm stopping here. He goes on to talk about Luna's portrayal in the comics, but since I don't read the comics, I can't cover it accurately. Voice. Overall, this journal did almost nothing to clarify what you said in Silver's video, and actually raised many more questions. Like how you said that she gets way too much praise for stuff she doesn't do. What are those things? How come she never did them? You didn't cover those in the journal. You tried to explain why she's not a good role model, or at least I think you did, but your reason was basically she's monotone and she dwells on her past and nothing else. And most of the time whenever you did explain something, it came across as super petty and downright nitpicky. And once again, you missed the point as to why people are super empathetic towards her. And it's not just me saying this. Has it ever occurred to you that maybe many people, including in your circle of friends, have been saying that you've been missing the point as to why people feel sorry or relate to Luna because, I don't know, you are?
It's been implied in the show that the princesses ruled for a long time. And after a while of getting whittled down of, I'm going to always be in this person's shadow, I will never be viewed as important. It's not like they were the princesses for a year and then it was like, oh, Celestia is liked more. It was probably decades, maybe even centuries.
Yeah.
When you are counted as a key part of the whole celestial cycle, and you're viewed as the second banana, I can see why she would finally snap. That's centuries of whittling down. Patience only lasts for so long.
And through all of that, I still haven't seen why Luna's a bad role model, even though you've said she's shown that time and time again. I'll say this though, you can still dislike Luna all you want, but if you're going to hear me out on just one thing, make it this. The reason why Luna is a good role model, because she can inspire and teach the importance of self-improvement. Think about it. Let's say for the sake of argument that you were right and she was a spoiled brat. Well, she sure as hell ain't that anymore. When the townsfolk in Ponyville didn't trust her, Twilight still believed that Luna could be someone great. Now look at her. She's gone from a tyrant to a guardian of the night and a mother figure to the CMC. She went from intimidating her subjects for ignoring her to getting praise from her subjects for protecting them in their dreams. Her social skills sure as hell ain't on par with her diplomatic sister, but goddamn are they a far cry from her 150 decibel onslaught of ye olde English. This is gonna sound really silly to some, but since there are so many people who relate to Luna's story from start to finish, at some point, someone had to have taken a step back and thought, you know, I'm not proud of what I am right now. But if Luna can change who she was, then so can I.
If I can change, then you can change. Everybody can change. Каждый может измениться.
Just like before, Voice, if you have any rebuttals, if I've missed anything, if I've misinterpreted anything, tell me. Make a response video, contact me on Skype or Discord, DM me on Twitter, anything. I'm more than willing to listen. But that's enough of my tirade about a man's distaste for a cartoon horse. I've got a catastrophically overdue commentary to finish. Till next time, Ricky, out.
Get the fuck back inside me.
Wow, you, want a minute to rephrase that there, Chief?